Travis Wayne Goodsell. I just finished up a video that'll be put into my sealed portion. As I'm supposed to be doing a video about Julia and her channel, analyzing Mormonism. And instead I ended up doing explanations of her description. And so after 33 minutes, I'm going, I am not talking about Julia that I want to, and we're over 33 minutes into this video, and I still haven't gotten to anything of Julia. And so here I go again. And so, Julia started her YouTube channel on August 28th, 2021. Says she grew up in the church, earned her undergraduate degree at the Brigham University in Idaho, and served her mission in Salt Lake. After marrying in the temple, starting a family, she came out as queer. And during her coming out process, she found herself leaving the marriage, and shortly after left the church as well, but didn't leave the church because she was queer. Just left her marriage because she was queer. And she left because she started to learn accurate church history that she had never been taught. And so her channel is to share the things that she's learning. And so yes, I never even got that far. I got to leaving the church, not because she was queer, with all of my explanations. And it's unfortunate that people come to one video and don't bother to see that I have 3.2K plus videos now. That maybe I might know something. As I have changed my description, and I haven't changed it back because I'm out of retirement thanks to the church. They missed me and demanded that I come back and do videos, as Armageddon has begun, and so it's necessary to help Mormons and ex-Mormons through Armageddon, which was intended to be the video I was going to do in place of Julia, but when I signed out of YouTube to start the video, I saw Julia's channel being recommended to me in non-sign out process. And she caught my attention, so I checked it out. Blah, blah, blah. And so she's apparently got a Linktree website as well. See further research. Sweetheart, you went to BYU, Idaho. You don't know how to do research. You just don't. I went to Rick's College, which are the ruins that Brigham Young, Idaho was built on. And so I know all about it. There we go. So, to do research, let's do that. For church history, the research that you need to do is collect evidence. You have to identify whether the evidence is from a primary source or hearsay. And if you don't know what hearsay is, you've probably heard he said, she said. That's hearsay. And in a court of law, hearsay is unacceptable. You are not a witness if all you claim is, I heard somebody say. Even on 24, the scriptwriter knows hearsay is not enough to violate a person's constitutional rights for. You need a little more than that. You need evidence, which comes in the form of the various fields of science. And when it comes to history that is more recent, you need primary source documents, not people's journals. People's journals are not primary source documents. It's a he said, she said. And the majority of critics don't understand that because they love to blame Joseph Smith for polygamy from hearsay documents. And you don't know how to identify that those hearsay documents are not legitimate. Such as being held captive by kidnappers in sex trafficking, who are forced to write in accordance with their kidnappers' demands. If you do not know your church history, case in point. And so, what she's doing is going over the CES letter material. That's what I see here. She thinks she's found something on her own, and all she's doing is parroting Jeremy Runnels. And so to do actual research, what you need to do, and I've recommended for you to do, as I have associative memory, so I do it mentally, is you have files. And I should put all my knowledge on paper or in a file document, but that's among the billions of projects I'm way behind on. And so for now, it's associative memory, and somebody else will have to do it because I'll be dead by the time I'm able to get around to it. And so you have a different file folder, whether that's in paper or on a Word program or whatever, for names, dates, events, places. And you just go through and you list them. And so when you see a pattern, Joseph Smith, Sidney Rigdon. Oh, it shows that in this place, both Sidney Rigdon and Joseph Smith were there. And you see the date, and you see the event, and you can put it all together. And then you can also find anomalies. Joseph Smith Sr., Master Mason, Canandaigua Lodge, New York, from 1818 in May to 9/11, 1826. And then you go to Heber C. Kimball. You see that he has a pattern match claiming that he was in Canandaigua, New York, petitioning the Master Mason, doesn't name him, to become a Royal Ark Mason. So you've got an anomaly. Now you have to explain the anomaly, because somebody's lying. And that's how you do your research. You don't see that Heber C. Kimball claims that he was a Master Mason and then became a Royal Ark Mason, but the documents were destroyed, and you don't bother to research why they were destroyed. You just see his excuse for it, and you don't bother to check who the Master Mason was of the Canandaigua Lodge. Your conclusions will be wrong. If you want to conclude that Freemasonry is evil and of the devil, you're going to be wrong. You don't know the big picture. You didn't bother to do research. You cheated. You cut corners. You removed premises from your theory and are claiming that your conclusion is true. You have to put all the evidence together. You can't leave anything out. That's why I'm encouraging you to do this, whereas I have associative memory. And it would help for reference material, because sometimes my associative memory has the wrong information, but that is supposed to help trigger the right information. Like a woman's name. Oops, I forgot. And so Julia, I remember Julia, and I don't have to keep going to her description page anymore because I used the wedding singer's name of Julia Gulia. Ta-da! You're now Julia Gulia, Julia. Sorry. That's my associative memory, to remember her name. So, her most recent video, as she's got 271 videos. So it'll take a while to scroll down to the bottom because YouTube doesn't have, they do, don't they? Oldest, they do. Let's do that. Even though we probably should cover some of the new stuff that she's been doing lately. So her oldest one was Musket and Trowel by BYU Conversion Therapy. So she does know about it. Interesting. I talk about it in the sealed portion. Of Jeffrey R. Holland, who refuses to die. And so, yeah, he threatened LGBTQ plus, IAPO plus, with murder. Talking about the musket. And Mormons ran with it on social media. So, good for her on catching that. But then, oops, hearsay alert, hearsay alert. No Man Knows My History, Chapter 1. She's reading the book by Fawn Brody. No Man Knows My History. Hearsay. You can't trust her. But she's a woman, we have to believe her. No, we don't. It's hearsay. She's not using science-based facts. Developed from evidence. Hello? This is the hardest thing for ex-Mormons and former Mormons and critics of the church to get. You are basing your conclusion that Joseph Smith is a pedophile rapist on hearsay. You didn't even bother to do real research, to put all the pieces of the puzzle together and find out that Brigham Young framed him. An argument from silence, exploring the reality of Joseph Smith's first vision. Hour and 17 minutes and 50 seconds. And so then after that, she then does smaller segments of the 1832 first vision, the 1835 first vision, 1838 first vision, and the 1842 first vision. So good for her. She knows that there are other versions, but she's clueless on how to do research. Because Joseph Smith is not going to tell a Jew that Jesus Christ appeared and told him that the Jewish church is wrong and that he should form his own Christian church and replace the Jews and replace the Jewish scripture. it goes, Travis. It doesn't sound right. Exactly. Good for you. You caught it. He's talking about Christianity. Oops. And so for Julia, she's under the belief that Joseph Smith can't get his story straight about being Christian and that Jesus is the Christ. Oops. And so the only actual version for the church is 1838. These others are to individuals that he talked with. Oh. The 1838 version is the official version for the church. And it wasn't published in his canon because he died. And Brigham Young didn't want it. We only have it because of the missionary president out in England, Richards, who joined Brigham Young's church and had made it for the England as a pamphlet and then brought it back with him. And then under John Taylor had it published as a separate book, but not canon scripture. And then it wasn't until the 1981 edition of our triple combination that it was made canon. Didn't know that, did you? And so then you go to the Joseph Smith papers and you realize that the 1981 version is not the same as the original. That there are some changes that need to be made. But nonetheless, again, even the Wentworth letter, that was a letter to Wentworth. And it was made canon. He was talking to a specific person who has a specific religious background. And so here he is trying to explain Mormonism in his understanding. That's what you do not get from these other vision accounts. So that's why he tells the Jew it was an angel who visited him. Whereas he tells another person that Jesus appeared. There's a reason for why he says what he says. And until you look at the big picture, you're going to be wrong with your conclusions. And then she's talking about the family proclamation. No pride in the proclamation. I'm assuming it's the family proclamation. Yeah. Again, well, not again, it's in the sealed portion. And then, no ma'am, that's not history. Hugh Nibley's response to no man knows my history. And Hugh Nibley is not worth a grain of salt in anything that he publishes. Sorry, Mormon apologists who focus all solely on him. Alright, so let's get to some more current stuff to see how she's changed over the years. Her latest video is The Real Purpose for Mormon Tithing. And she's talking about George M. Himke. And she too, what the bleep? She's able to put pictures on her video. And she's doing text on her video. I finally figured out how to do text on my videos. Pictures. And she's brand new. What's going on? I'm pissed. And so, yeah, I hope she understands that the real purpose of tithing was Brigham Young's creation. Does she know that? I don't think so, because in her Joseph Smith plan to get out of debt, which I hovered over to read the text, she doesn't. Again, hearsay and trusting forged documents as legitimate. And she's too young to remember Mark Hoffman, even though Mark Hoffman was a Netflix, wasn't it? Netflix or some other streaming service that covered the whole Mark Hoffman history. Did a little mini-series on it. I don't know if she made that connection. I don't know if she's got a video on it. But she clearly doesn't make the connection to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Because Mark Hoffman, Mormon. And it was during the time period where Sandra and Gerald Tanner were exposing the church with original documents. But then they tampered with it, Christian interpretation. But regardless, the church was on full alert to hurt Gerald and Sandra Tanner. They finally succeeded by going through the city to destroy the ballpark area. Sandra Tanner finally was forced to move away and close her church. It no longer exists on the face of the earth. The Utah Lighthouse Ministries are gone. As I was there with Sandra interviewing her, when she told me. Very sad. The church got revenge on her after her husband died and was no longer a threat to the church. The church came out with the Joseph Smith Papers. I talked to Sandra about that because their book, Mormonism, Shadow or Reality, is the Joseph Smith Papers. It's just that they put in their Christian bias, ruining their conclusions. But Gerald and Sandra Tanner's work is what the Joseph Smith Papers is all about. And it exposes the church. But the church won't make the changes that the Joseph Smith Papers say on the homepage is the authoritative source for all things Joseph Smith. And they won't make the changes. And even in the Joseph Smith Papers, they hide them. They still put the original errors, but they have it so that you can click on them and a box will pop up, or it's footnoted. You have to go way to the bottom to find out what they're hiding from you. But nonetheless, Mormons should be using that for their research. And Mackenzie didn't, and neither is Julia Gulia. Very sad. And so the purpose of tithing? Brigham Young forged section 119. It's now priestcraft. Should have caught on, because the Book of Mormon says no priestcrafts. So why would Joseph Smith use the Book of Mormon as the keystone, have the missionaries go around spreading the Book of Mormon, only to tell Mormons, we're going to violate the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon is worthless. I'm just having you guys go out and give people the Book of Mormon to join our church and then find out you're in bondage. But that's exactly what Brigham Young did. And Mormons don't get it. She thinks that the lies are covering up Joseph Smith. No, the lies are covering up Brigham Young's lies about Joseph Smith. And nobody gets that. Because the church ceased to exist on the face of the earth under John Taylor in 1887 with the Edmunds-Tucker Act. It was because of the tithing fraud of the church, using tithing to commit serious crimes, one of which was sex trafficking. Oh, you thought it was polygamy? Oakes is telling you it's denying them their religious freedom? Seriously? You're gonna trust a liar trying to defend a lying church? They have to lie. They cannot tell us the truth. If Nelson got up and made the corrections in the Joseph Smith Papers, Mormons would be like, wait a minute, you mean we're not Christian? We're Jewish? What? How is Nelson going to maintain his authority as the president of the church if he comes out and tells us we're not Christian, we're supposed to be Jewish? We lied to you all this time. He's throwing away the church if he were to tell the truth. And so this church can't tell you the truth. They have to keep up the lie. And Gerald and Sandra Tanner, by exposing original documents, was exposing the church as lying. And so you don't see that it was Heber J. Grant in 1923 who reincorporated the church into existence. Articles of Incorporation. It was now the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, resurrected from the grave. And not a single Mormon knew it. And thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, people now know it and have posted the documents. And others of us have acquired those documents so that we can show you in videos in the 3.2 plus thousand videos on this channel. So yeah, that's why there are contradictions like tithing and polygamy. Because little Sweetie apparently didn't go to the Joseph Smith papers to realize that the 1835 Doctrine and Covenants had a whole chapter on monogamy, condemning polygamy. The Book of Mormon, as I found out yesterday, has now 6 instances of denouncing polygamy. 6. Plus the Doctrine and Covenants. Plus what was Section 131, but didn't get put in until Brigham Young's Doctrine and Covenants the year before he died. But he gutted it because it talks about monogamy in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom, not polygamy in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom, which is Section 132, the very next section that he put them in. So you need to have your categories so that you can see the anomalies and run a test to explain the anomaly. And once you get 3 confirmations, as we found out in Fast 9, when they were out in space, you've established a fact. Who was Moroni with a frog? Yeah. No, dear. No. See, she's probably getting this from partially the misinformation of D. Michael Quinn, who didn't bother to do sufficient research to find out the real backstory. Because again, who was he talking to? Not the church. It's not a church document. He's talking to an individual. Who is the individual? You need to know this information before you go around saying that Joseph Smith said this. Church isn't true. And so yeah, D. Michael Quinn was not as great as he thought he was, and you think he is. His Hierarchy series, yeah, I recommend those. I bought them. But not his Mormonism in the Magic World View. Dear God. Because I checked him on it. I have a Urim and Thummim. I was able to check him on it. He was calling Joseph Smith a witch. I checked him on it. He's wrong. Anyway, it's Jewish Kabbalah. That's the learning of the Jews, in case you hadn't been watching my channel. And then Spooky Mormon Blessing Meeting. I know about Spooky Mulder from X-Files. Bear with me. Winter Quarters. So Winter Quarters is Brigham Young. So it has nothing to do with Joseph Smith. And she clearly does not see the difference. She's accepting that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, founded by Brigham Young with the wrong name, is the true succession from Joseph Smith. Did you not watch my video? That was the bombshell at the end of the video. You had to watch the hour-long video to hear the bombshell, or the follow-up video that I did last night, which I tell about it at the beginning. Oliver Cowdery, he exposes that he thought Joseph Smith changed the name and became a Danite. The name change is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's the Danite name. Hello? All these years, and Mormons just, nope, don't care. I don't care. Nope. And ex-Mormons, nope. I have my conclusions. It's my truth. Did Mormon leaders steal from the Relief Society? Stole grain. Dialogue, a Journal of Mormon Thought? Oh, dear God. You're not even going to a primary source document. And nothing's coming up to see if there's any further thing on that. Let's Google search, see if we can find out what this is about, if it's Brigham Young or Joseph Smith. Mormon leaders steal grain from Ukraine. LDS prophet steals Relief Society funds and property. Our Truth Be Told. God. And then there's her video. Dialogue Journal. Before the war, about the control of wheat had been successfully handled by both the Relief Society and priesthood leaders. So it looks like this is a World War II or World War I thing. It's a PDF from Dialogue Journal. Grain storage. Jesse L. Embry. The balance of power between priesthood authority and Relief Society autonomy. And so you use the symbol of fascism. In the 20th century, a 20th century visitor to the 19th century might... You're not explaining things here. Get to the point. A Relief Society might be discussing the need to support home industry and the United Order. That's Brigham Young. Joseph F. Smith in April 1906. Launched a reform movement to organize the priesthood quorums and to correlate activities. At the same time, he centralized the activities of the church auxiliaries under the priesthood authority in preparation for a day when there would not be so much necessity for work. Yeah, I remember doing that. I was doing research on what accomplishments each president of the Church of Brigham Young had done, and then published it under, I didn't know how to title it, so I put Latter Days. And it became very popular among Mormons. And then Mormons are reading it and going, well, this is nice information, but it was not what I was expecting. I was just trying to publish a book a day for Amazon. Reorganization of the priesthood. Dear God, you're rambling off on introduction. I would never do that. The Mormons arrived in 1847, hoped to establish an economic, but mine always have a point and purpose. And he does have some good points, but still. Wives and daughters, hats and bonnets. Dear God. Sister Wells, overwhelmed by the size of the grain storage project, saw herself as a modern Joseph in Egypt and asked for the support of the Relief Societies. In October 1876, she published an editorial in the Woman's Exponent calling upon sisters to be earnest and to collect funds to buy wheat and build granaries. See, it took the Relief Society to get the revelation, not Brigham Young. It was a year before he died. Dear God. A month later, the leaders of the Relief Society met, and President Eliza R. Snow appointed a Central Grain Committee with Sister Wells as chairman. So, yeah, it's not Joseph. And so I don't want this video to be about this. But we will include it in my file system. So, yeah, you need to go through, you need to find out that the church is claiming that the Relief Society is just a straight succession from Emma Smith. I hope you're not that stupid, women. I'm sure they teach you about the various presidents of the Relief Society so that you would know that Brigham Young had to restart it because he didn't want nothing to do with it. List of Relief Society presidents. And Wikipedia possibly will give us the quicker information. And so Emma, March 17th, 1842 to, oh no, we don't have a day in a month, 1844. When was it? I don't know. What do we do? We know exactly when. Joseph Smith died. She wanted nothing more to do with anything because the church was destroyed. The priesthood did not succeed properly according to section 107, verse 22. And so the next president of the Relief Society was in 1844, right? No, 1866 in December, Eliza R. Snow. 22 years later. And Brigham Young finally said, fine. You can have your Relief Society back, but no priesthood and no priesthood office like Joseph gave. Did you not read the Joseph Smith papers? You didn't? I'm surprised. Mormon Relief Societies talk about it. They don't read it? Strange. I wonder why. So yes, it was Brigham Young. But assume, well, I'm already explaining it to you. Gotta put the pieces of the puzzle together. The Mormon Angel. Yeah, you should have caught on. The reports of Joseph Smith being told to practice polygamy by an angel with wings, that should have been your first clue that this was BS. But when you have the false conclusion, it fits into the narrative. And so, yeah, God's plan to get out of debt. Sorry, sweetie. Section 119 is a forged document by Brigham Young after Joseph Smith died. That's when it was put into his Doctrine and Covenants, claiming to be by Joseph so that he can deceive Mormons. Joseph Smith's early treasure quests. We're at 40 minutes. I still haven't bathed and shaved. And so, yeah, she's been focusing on tithing, I see here, in the treasure quest, because she also has Mormons are paying too much tithing. No, we're not paying enough. Did you not read section 119, dear? Let's do that for you. Because apparently your overview of Mormon tithing is insufficient for 1 minute and 47 seconds. You need to speak for an hour on this topic. Verse 1. Verily, thus saith the Lord, I require all their surplus property to be put into the hands of the bishop of my church in Zion. Okay? All your surplus property. What is surplus property? Well, you got to be doing your own business, doing your own farming that you take to the market to try to buy other things that you need for the family. And so the surplus property, yeah, it all goes to the church after you've taken care of your family, the surplus. For the building of my house, temple, for the laying of the foundations of Zion, the overthrow of the United States of America, and for the priesthood, priestcraft, which the Book of Mormon specifically warns, don't let priestcrafts in, it'll destroy your nation. And for the debts of the presidency of my church. So the presidency is already getting paid because they're the priesthood. And so apparently they overcharge and expect that the surplus, therefore, is going to pay for the extra for the presidency. And then verse 3, pay attention. And this shall be the beginning of the tithing of my people. And so after that, those who have thus been tithed shall now pay an additional 1/10 of all your interest annually. That's the surplus. And so, yeah, we're not paying enough tithing. And so again, it's still, you are supposed to have your own business in order to have interest. Unfortunately, Mormons don't run their own businesses these days. Very few percentage-wise do. Most Mormons work for someone else, and they get paid, and they live paycheck to paycheck, and they struggle. And when some big expense comes along, they have to decide, do we sacrifice food, diapers, drugs, or rent, or electric bill, or etc., etc. And the church is expected to help Mormons get out of poverty. But that's in the scriptures. The church doesn't want to follow the scriptures. And so, yeah, this is clearly a forged document. To honestly believe that Joseph Smith is producing a Book of Mormon, because you don't believe Sidney Rigdon's the major author of the Book of Mormon, and that Joseph Smith Sr. had to rewrite the 116 pages, to put in no polygamy 6 times, to put in his Doctrine and Covenants, when supposedly the angel told him to practice polygamy openly in defiance of the United States, who had wings and a flaming sword and was going to murder him instantly, to then disregard the angel and publish in the Doctrine and Covenants that polygamy is a sin. And then to have Section 131 unpublished, where he talks to a monogamous couple and says, hey, you're going to be exalted for being a monogamous couple, the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. And yet you think that Section 132 was legitimate, and that therefore the tithing thing is legitimate? I mean, dear God. Because he put it all out, and you see a pattern. No priestcraft, no priestcraft, no priestcraft. Even in the Bible, no priestcraft. Sodom was destroyed because they neglected the poor. And yet, and you read the Joseph Smith history, all these different religions of Christianity have a completely different interpretation of the exact same passage. And so you see a contradiction and you just say, well, I guess Joseph Smith doesn't believe what he originally taught. And you don't check? Because when was this given? July 8th, 1838. What happened in 1838? So, it's been frustrating for me all these years to get Mormons and as many ex-Mormons and former Mormons that will listen to me. And yet both won't listen to me. Because you think you know better. She doesn't know better. A little girl who just barely started a YouTube channel. I mean, I've had a guy who is a young boy who finds out the CES letter and the whatever else he was finding out, and thinks that it was brand new, and was doing a YouTube channel, and he was trying to be popular, and he comes to me and attacks me. And then I have a flapper who was commenting today. Cat's meow. She thinks I'm just finally figuring out that the church isn't true. Here we go. It was on yesterday's video, Recovering Mormons Sustain Permanent Damage, regarding Mackenzie. Thanks to the viewer who sent me the link to her. But she says, I'm glad you were figuring out that it's all a lie. See, she doesn't get it. She doesn't know how to do research. She's got her conclusions, and anything that doesn't fit her conclusions is therefore false, just like Mormons. You guys do not know how to do research properly. Trusting too much in hearsay because it's ear-tingling. I don't think anybody does that anymore. It's in the scriptures, so you'll maybe hear it in church when it's that New Testament lesson topic, but other than that, dear God.